The smell of cheap coffee and vinyl chairs was already turning my stomach when my mom leaned across the finance desk and said, loud enough for the receptionist outside to hear, "Well, you always were the slow one, sweetie. I'm just glad your sister got some ambition." I didn't say a word, just kept my hands in my lap and stared at the paperwork. Like it was interesting. It wasn't. My name's Rachel. I'm 29 years old. I live in Springfield, Missouri. And at that moment, I was sitting in a dealership finance office, biting my tongue so hard I tasted blood, while my mom and little sister acted like I didn't exist. They were both grinning like they just won the damn lottery. "Uncle Ray always loved me best," Ashley said, flipping her hair over her shoulder like we were in high school again. "He said I reminded him of Aunt Lisa before she passed. You remember, Mom?" "Oh, honey, of course. He doted on you, unlike some people who barely showed up unless they needed something." I blinked. Once. Didn't move. Ashley kept going. "I still can't believe I'm getting the bikes. You know how many people have offered cash for just one of those Indians? Like real money. I might sell a few and get that beach trip we were talking about." Mom giggled and reached over to squeeze her hand. "You've earned it. You're young, you're smart, and you're not stuck at a desk sorting paper like your sister. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from?" My jaw clenched so hard my ears rang, but I didn't speak. I couldn't. Not yet. The office was quiet except for the ticking wall clock and the hum of a printer somewhere in the back. A lawyer was supposed to meet us soon to finalize the estate transfer. Ashley was practically bouncing in her chair, twisting her brand new phone around in her hands, already imagining the money she'd make. Mom looked like she was ready to pop champagne. Neither of them had any idea what was really coming. They didn't know about the hospital nights, the long weekends, the hours I spent at Uncle Ray's side while his lungs turned on him. They never saw the notebooks, the binders, the meetings. They thought they were about to cash in and move on. I didn't correct them. Not yet. Uncle Ray always said patience wins wars. I just kept my mouth shut and waited for the lawyers to come in. Ashley was still babbling about paint colors for the house she thought she owned when the door finally opened behind us. I stood up when the lawyer came in, but in my head, I wasn't in that dealership anymore. I was back in the shop 3 years ago, the first time I drove out to Uncle Ray's place on the edge of town. The air inside the garage smelled like oil and rubber, same as always. It was just after sunset, late September. I had just gotten off work at the call center, my uniform shirt still sticking to my back from the heat. Uncle Ray stood at his old metal workbench, wiping down tools like he hadn't just asked me to meet him for something important. "You remember that Camry I rebuilt for your mom?" he asked without turning. "Yeah, she totaled it in 6 weeks." He let out a dry laugh. "Yeah, well, that's what I mean. She burns through everything she touches." He finally turned to face me, one hand resting on a thick black binder. "Rachel," he said, "I'm gonna ask you a question. You ready to learn something real?" That was the night it started. He opened the binder, and suddenly I wasn't just his niece, I was his student. Every Thursday after work, and every other Sunday, I drove out to that garage. To the outside world, it looked like I was helping him clean, organize parts, and log invoices. That was true, but only half the story. In the back office, where the old fridge barely kept drinks cold and the ceiling fan squeaked every time it spun, he showed me the bones of an empire. Ray's Auto and Diesel wasn't just one garage, it was 7. He owned each building, free and clear. Then there was the parts business, custom pieces he had manufactured out of a warehouse in Tulsa and shipped all over the Midwest. And that wasn't the end of it. He had a side company leasing out heavy-duty lifts, tow trucks, and diagnostic equipment to smaller mechanics who couldn't afford their own. "People think I'm just a grease monkey," he'd say, flipping pages of spreadsheets. "Let 'em. Keeps the bloodsuckers away." One night after dinner, sitting on overturned milk crates with cold beers in hand, he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Your mom would sell this all in a week. Then she'd be back begging for more. You think I don't know she's still gambling?" I nodded. I knew. She blew through Dad's life insurance in under a year. Then it was payday loans, then lines of credit. Always one more big win coming. "That's why I'm giving this to you," he said. "Not because you're family, because you show up." Over time, I met the shop managers, Ron in Joplin, Stacy in Fayetteville, Leo in Kansas City. He had me sit in on Zoom calls with his CPA and estate attorney. I took notes, asked questions. Sometimes I'd come in tired from my job, and he'd just slide a folder across the desk and say, "No excuses. Learn it." It wasn't always easy. The numbers made my head spin sometimes, especially when he started explaining depreciation and lease schedules. But I stuck with it. I didn't take shortcuts. I learned how to read a balance sheet, how to spot a bad investment, how to renegotiate a supplier contract without pissing someone off. And slowly, he started letting me handle real stuff. I filed tax documents. I reviewed vendor bids. I even helped write up a lease agreement for one of the new locations. He never said the words out loud, "You're the heir," or "I'm giving this all to you." But it was clear in the way he moved, the way he trusted me with keys, passwords, legal documents. He kept everything separate from his personal property. "One thing goes down," he told me, "the rest stays standing. That's how you build it right." When he got sick, he made me promise to keep coming, no matter what. So I did. Even when he was on oxygen and could barely stand for 5 minutes, he was still sharp as ever, still walking me through strategy like he had another 10 years. What Mom and Ashley never saw, what they still didn't know sitting in that office, was that every late night, every part logged, every contract reviewed, was building toward today. He didn't just leave me a business. He gave me armor, and they were about to find out they brought knives to a gunfight. The door opened, and in walked a man in a dark gray suit, late 50s maybe, carrying a leather folio and looking like he hadn't smiled since the Bush administration. "Good afternoon," he said, glancing around the room like he already regretted being there. "I'm Alan McBride. I handled Raymond Parker's estate planning. I'll be reading the will." Ashley straightened up and grabbed Mom's hand. They were practically bouncing in their chairs. I stayed standing. McBride sat down at the desk and opened his folder. "This is the last will and testament of Raymond W. Parker, dated February 3rd of last year, witnessed and notarized." Ashley inhaled like she was about to open birthday presents. "To my niece, Ashley Marie Parker, I leave the following personal property: my collection of vintage motorcycles, the house and garage at 817 Silver Ridge Road, and the contents of my checking and savings accounts held at First County Bank." Ashley squealed. "Oh my God, oh my God," she squeezed Mom's hand and bounced in her seat. Mom blinked hard, forcing out tears that weren't there 2 seconds earlier. "Oh, Ray," he always had a soft spot for her. She sniffed like she was on a soap opera. Ashley leaned in and whispered, "We're selling the house, right? I want that new kitchen we talked about. Plus, some of those bikes are worth 10 grand each." "Maybe more," Mom whispered back. "You could clear 6 figures easy." I didn't move. McBride kept reading, not fazed at all. "To my niece Rachel Ann Parker, I leave the contents of my filing cabinet, currently stored in the locked office of my garage." That was it. Nothing else, just contents of my filing cabinet. Ashley burst out laughing. "Oh wow, a stack of receipts and a rusty stapler?" Mom smirked. "Well, you always liked paperwork. Maybe there's an old coupon in there for tires." Ashley howled. "Imagine driving all the way here to inherit junk mail." I didn't give them the satisfaction of reacting. I just nodded once and sat back down. "Is that everything?" Mom asked, already pulling out her phone like she had Zillow open. McBride raised an eyebrow. "That concludes the reading of the personal portion of Mr. Parker's will. There are additional matters to address." Ashley tilted her head. "What kind of matters? Furniture?" "No," he said. "We're waiting on a second attorney." Mom rolled her eyes. "Well, can we go ahead and get the keys? We've got a locksmith meeting us this afternoon at the house." McBride closed the folder. "Not yet." Ashley blinked. "Why not?" Before he could answer, the door opened again. A woman in a navy blue suit stepped in, holding a cardboard banker's box and a tablet. She looked calm, prepared, like someone who knew exactly how this was going to play out. She walked over to the table and nodded toward me. "Ms. Parker." I stood back up. "Ma'am." Mom looked between us. "Wait, who are you?" The woman smiled politely. "I'm Meredith Collins, corporate counsel for Parker Group Holdings." Ashley's smile faltered. "What the hell is that?" Collins placed the box on the desk and started unlocking the tablet. "We'll begin in a moment." I folded my arms and watched my mother's face start to twitch. Ashley leaned closer to her and whispered, "What's happening?" Mom didn't answer. For once, she didn't have a damn thing to say. Collins tapped the tablet a few times, then looked up. Everything we're about to discuss is separate from the personal will. Mr. Parker kept his business holdings under a private trust and multiple corporate entities. Ashley blinked. Business holdings? You mean like the garage? Collins reached into the box and pulled out 3 thick folders. She laid them out neatly on the desk, like she was about to present evidence in court. Raymond Parker owned 7 auto repair shops across Missouri and Arkansas. He also founded a machine parts distribution company, an equipment leasing business, and held a minority stake in a regional logistics firm operating out of Tulsa. Mom sat up straighter. No, that can't be right. Ray was a mechanic. He fixed cars and changed oil. He was also the sole shareholder of Parker Group Holdings, which owns the land beneath those garages, the tools inside them, and the companies operating under their names. Ashley's mouth dropped open. He never told us. Collins didn't flinch. He structured everything to be invisible unless you knew where to look. Real estate deeds, equipment titles, tax filings, vendor contracts, all held under shell companies that report to the holding group. McBride opened one of the folders and rotated it toward them. These are the notarized contracts. We have records dating back over 20 years. Mom's voice cracked. Why would he hide that from us? I already knew the answer, but I let Collins handle it. Because he wanted to protect it, she said, plainly. He saw how quickly personal assets could disappear when exposed to creditors or lawsuits. He kept the companies legally and financially separate from his family, friends, and even his own residence. Ashley leaned forward like she was about to puke. How much is it worth? McBride cleared his throat. At time of death, estimated combined value was approximately $15 million. That includes property, inventory, equipment, and projected annual revenue. The room went still. Mom's hand slid off the table and into her lap. She stared straight ahead, face drained, like someone pulled the floor out from under her. Ashley finally snapped out of it. This is a joke, right? He was wearing the same damn boots for 10 years. That was his choice, Collins said. He drove the same truck since 2009, lived in a modest house, but he was also making large-scale investments, expanding operations, and leveraging assets quietly. Mom shook her head. But we're his family. How could he just keep all this from us? He didn't keep it from everyone, Collins said, eyes shifting toward me. Ashley turned to me, face twisted. You knew, I shrugged. I knew enough. Collins opened another file and started spreading documents across the desk. LLC articles, board minutes, annual reports, signed transfer agreements. It was all real, all signed, all dated, all airtight. I don't believe this, Mom whispered. He was supposed to trust me. We grew up together. He helped me buy my first car. He also watched you default on 3 loans and lose 2 properties to gambling debts, Collins said flatly. Ashley whipped around. What? McBride interjected. That discussion will come next. But for now, please understand, Mr. Parker built these companies alone. He kept them quiet for a reason. Ashley stood up. He lied to us all these years. Collins didn't even blink. No, Miss Parker, he simply didn't invite you in. Ashley looked to Mom for backup, but Mom didn't say a word. Her arms were crossed now. Her mouth was pressed tight, but her eyes gave it away. She was calculating, scrambling, trying to find an angle. There's more to cover, Collins said. But you should understand, what was read in the will today? That was the small stuff. Ashley dropped back into her chair like the air had been punched out of her. I stayed standing, silent, calm. Let them sit in it. Collins didn't miss a beat. She opened the last folder in the box and slid it to the center of the table like it was a bomb she'd just finished wiring. These documents were compiled over the last 8 years, she said. Mr. Parker kept records of all outstanding debts, judgments, and liabilities tied to immediate family members. Mom flinched. Excuse me, Collins tapped the first page. This one's from Ameristar Casino in Kansas City. Shows a gambling credit line defaulted in March 2019. Total balance, $18,000. Ashley leaned forward. What? Collins flipped the page. This next one's a civil lawsuit filed by Black River Lending Group. They claim Mrs. Parker failed to repay a personal loan tied to gambling losses in Branson. Settled out of court. Mr. Parker paid off part of it to avoid a lien against her car. Ashley turned toward Mom, her voice sharper now. You told me that car got repossessed because of back taxes, Mom hissed. Not now. Collins continued calmly, flipping each page. Additional records include a judgment from Missouri State Court, $32,000, multiple missed payments on high-interest personal loans, 4 active accounts flagged by credit agencies for risk of default. Mom's face went red, blood boiling under the surface. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. Ashley's voice cracked. How long was he tracking this? Over a decade, Collins said. He consulted a financial risk advisor in 2015 after a second mortgage in your name, Mrs. Parker, was flagged as unsecured and volatile. Mom's chair squeaked as she shifted, her eyes darting to the door like she wanted to run. Why didn't he say anything? Ashley demanded. Why didn't he just sit us down and talk to us? Collins looked her straight in the eye. Because he knew how you'd react. He knew you'd fight him, guilt him, promise to change. Then you'd cash out and leave a mess behind. He didn't want the companies exposed to your mother's financial liabilities or future lawsuits. Ashley turned back to me now, wild-eyed. And you knew? You knew about all of this? I nodded once. Every document, every reason. Mom finally snapped. This is a setup. He was sick. He didn't know what he was doing. This can be challenged. McBride cleared his throat and set another folder on the table, smaller this time, but thicker than you'd expect. That would be difficult. Mr. Parker underwent 2 psychiatric evaluations during the final drafting of his business succession plan. One from a licensed clinical psychologist, one from an independent geriatric psychiatrist. Both confirmed full mental capacity. Mom laughed, but it was dry, ugly. That doesn't mean it was fair. He was manipulated. Collins didn't flinch. We have recordings, Mrs. Parker. Several meetings were documented, by his choice. Your comments were specific. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, then looked at Ashley like she expected backup. Ashley didn't move. She just stared at the folder like it might jump up and hit her. Collins leaned back slightly. Nothing about this was rushed. Nothing was hidden. He made sure the law would hold. Mom looked ready to scream, but she didn't. She pressed her palms flat against the table and looked down, like reading the wood grain would help her figure a way out. I stood behind my chair, arms crossed, and waited. There wasn't going to be a way out. Collins tapped the edge of the folder, then looked up at all 3 of us. Her voice didn't rise, didn't soften, just clean, sharp words delivered straight. Per the legal documents and succession plans signed by Mr. Parker, the full ownership of Parker Group Holdings, including all assets, operations, and controlling interests, transfers to Rachel Ann Parker, effective immediately upon his death. Ashley jerked back like she'd been slapped. What? No, that's not. You're saying she gets everything? Collins nodded. She's the legal successor, sole shareholder, designated CEO under all governing documents. Mom leaned forward, voice shaking with rage. This is a mistake. There's no way Ray, he wouldn't do this. Rachel doesn't know the first thing about running a business. I didn't blink. I've been training for 3 years. Ashley's head whipped toward me. What are you talking about? I drove out to the shop every week, cleaned parts, filed invoices. But that wasn't all. Ray taught me how everything worked. I sat in on meetings, I ran numbers. I met every manager and lawyer involved. I motioned to the documents spread across the desk. This isn't new to me. Ashley's eyes filled fast. So you knew? This whole time, you were just keeping it quiet while we thought he loved all of us the same? I shrugged. He asked me not to say a word until it was done. I respected that. You lied, she snapped. You sat there, right next to me, acting like you were surprised. I didn't act like anything. I sat quietly. You 2 just assumed I didn't matter. Mom slapped her hand on the table. You manipulated him. He was old, sick. He trusted people too much. You took advantage. Collins cut in, cool and unbothered. That accusation won't hold up. Mr. Parker took extensive legal steps to protect his intent. We have signed statements from every advisor involved. All documents were reviewed by independent counsel. He even recorded key planning sessions. McBride added, including a recording from last fall, where he clearly says, quote, I trust Rachel because she shows up. The other two don't show up unless they want something. Mom's face crumpled, but she wasn't done. This is still family. You don't just go behind people's backs and hand over a fortune without telling them. Collins didn't flinch. He didn't go behind anyone's back. He went forward, with eyes wide open. He saw what you did with money, what you said about him behind his back. Ashley's voice cracked. What recordings? I spoke up before Collins could. The ones where you called him an old hoarder and said you couldn't wait for him to die so you could sell off the bikes. Or when Mom said she'd use his money to wipe out the slots in one weekend. Ashley covered her face with her hands. You recorded us? No, I said. He did. And he gave copies to his lawyer. Mom slumped back in her chair like the air had gone out of her. Ashley's mascara was starting to smear. You knew we'd get nothing, and you still let us show up here thinking we had a chance. I stared at her. You had a chance, years of them. Ray gave you time, you just didn't do anything with it. Collins folded the last folder shut. Legally, there is no path to contest. Mr. Parker ensured every step was documented and verified. There are audio files, video logs, even written journals confirming his decisions. Everything is locked in. Mom looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't. Maybe that's what happens when the quiet one finally shows her cards. Ashley wiped her face with her sleeve, breathing hard. I can't believe this. I seriously can't believe this is happening. I leaned forward. Believe it, it's done. Ashley gripped the edge of the chair like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Fine. She gets the business crap. Whatever. I still have the house, the bikes, and the savings, right? That's still mine. McBride gave Collins a quick glance, like they'd been waiting for her to ask that. Collins didn't even blink. Not exactly. Ashley's voice jumped. What do you mean, not exactly? Those assets were listed in the will, Collins said. But they're also tied to outstanding liens and judgments, most of which stem from debts incurred under your mother's name. Ashley turned toward Mom, eyes wide. What debts? You said we were clear. You said Ray paid all that off. Mom didn't answer. Collins pulled a thin stack of documents from the final folder. The house at 817 Silver Ridge Road was used to secure a loan 5 years ago. That loan defaulted. A judgment was issued in 2022, and a lien was placed on the property. The garage was included in the collateral. Ashley's lips parted like she couldn't breathe. But it's mine. He said it's mine. McBride laid a hand on the documents. The will can pass ownership, but it can't erase debt. Those creditors will file claims against the estate. You can take the title, but you'll be taking the liens with it. The motorcycles? She asked, voice cracking. Also used as collateral, Collins said. They were included in the lien filings. If you try to sell them, the proceeds will be seized. Ashley blinked fast, like she thought she could cry her way back into the will. What about the money, his savings account? McBride shook his head. Frozen pending judgment review. Once creditor claims are processed, there may be a small remainder, but likely not. Ashley broke. Just snapped right there. Are you saying I get nothing, after everything? No, Collins said, calm as ever. You get a house that's not legally yours yet, motorcycles you can't sell, and a bank account already spoken for. Ashley stood up like the chair was on fire. This is a nightmare. This is sick. This can't be legal. It's entirely legal, Collins replied. Your mother's financial history is public record. Ashley turned to Mom. You lied to me. You said we were getting a fresh start, that he was just a lonely old man with tools. Mom didn't move, didn't blink. She looked like someone had poured cement down her throat. Say something, Ashley screamed. This is your fault. Still nothing. I watched them both spiral, and not for 1 second did I feel bad. They'd walked in here already making plans with money that wasn't theirs. Smiling, laughing, mocking me like I was some sad little afterthought. All that greed, all that fake confidence. And they never once asked why Ray did what he did. They thought showing up with open hands would be enough. They never even noticed the trap they walked into. Ashley was still crying when I reached into my purse and pulled out the sealed envelope. Cream-colored, thick, handwritten in black ink across the front, to be read after the paperwork's done. His handwriting was shaky but clear. Same way he signed every invoice for 30 years. I held it up. Ray asked me to give this to you both when everything was finalized. Collins gave a small nod. We're done on our end. I walked over and set the envelope in front of my mother. She looked at it like it might explode. Ashley sniffled. "What is that?" "His final words," I said. "In his own handwriting. You should hear them." Mom hesitated, then picked it up with trembling fingers, tore it open down the side and unfolded the letter. One full page, no fluff. She started reading, voice tight, eyes darting across the lines like she was trying to find a way out between the words. "If you're reading this, then everything's been processed. I want to be clear, because I know both of you, this wasn't done out of spite. It was done because of choices you made over and over." Ashley shifted in her seat. Already crumbling again, Mom kept reading. "Marie, you've had plenty of chances. After Frank died, I helped where I could. Paid off your mortgage, lent you money, co-signed loans. You gambled every cent away. You lied about it, denied it, then asked for more. You treated me like a wallet, not a brother." Her hands tightened on the paper. "And Ashley," she read, voice lowering, "you stopped visiting years ago, only called when you needed something. I heard what you said about me, about the bikes, the house, the shop. You weren't subtle. You never asked what I wanted. You just assumed you'd get it." Ashley sobbed into her hands, loud, messy, real. Mom paused, eyes glassy now, then kept going. "But Rachel showed up. She didn't ask for anything. She listened, learned, worked. I didn't hand her anything. She earned it. Every bit of it." She swallowed hard. That line hurt. "She didn't ask me for money. She asked me for knowledge. And she never treated me like a burden. That's why she's getting the businesses. That's why I trust her." The last paragraph was short. "I know this hurts, but hurt isn't the same as injustice. You weren't cut out. You cut yourselves out. I just signed the paperwork." Mom's voice cracked on that last line. She folded the letter slowly, no drama, no eye rolls, just quiet. Then she set it on the desk like it weighed 50 pounds and stared straight ahead. Didn't yell, didn't argue, just sat there, stuck. Ashley's shoulders shook, her whole body curled up, face buried in her arms. No one spoke. The only sound was the air vent clicking on in the ceiling and the soft buzz of the fluorescent lights above us. Collins broke the silence first. "We'll need to schedule time next week to introduce you to the senior management team, Rachel. There are signatory changes and access handovers to complete." I nodded. "I'll make time." McBride stood and started packing the folders. "You'll also need to meet with the estate's tax attorney. There are transition filings for the holding group." I glanced at my mom and sister. Neither of them looked up. The letter sat untouched on the table, folded neatly like it didn't just tear their world apart. Collins stepped toward the door. "Congratulations," she said, calm and steady. He made the right choice. The two lawyers left the room together. The door clicked shut behind them. That's when Mom finally spoke. "Well," she said, clearing her throat, "looks like you finally amounted to something." Her tone was flat, but I could hear it, resentment, trying to dress itself up as maturity. "I guess. Congratulations. I didn't say thank you." Ashley lifted her head, eyes red and raw. "So what are we supposed to do now?" I didn't flinch. "You'll need to deal with the creditors, the liens, the tax assessments, all of it." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "You can't help us. You have the money now." "I didn't earn it so I could throw it into a black hole," I said. "Ray taught me better than that." Ashley looked away. Mom stood and grabbed her purse. Her eyes never met mine. "Let's go, Ashley." But Ashley didn't move. "So that's it? We just walk out of here with nothing?" "No," I said. "You walk out with exactly what you built." They left in silence. A few weeks later, the news hit our small-town papers and trickled into every diner and gas station gossip circle. Marie Parker filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Total debt, $412,000. Turns out the loans Ray paid off were just the tip of it. Credit cards, court judgments, personal loans she took out in Ashley's name without her knowing. It all came due at once. Ashley's credit was destroyed. Her bank accounts froze. She lost her apartment and ended up renting a spare bedroom from a coworker in an insurance office. That's where she ended up working too. Entry-level admin, answering phones and filing paperwork for $10 an hour. People used to say she was the pretty one, the lucky one, the favorite. Now she drove a rusted-out Corolla and begged the internet for budgeting tips. Me? I went to the Joplin location first, then Kansas City, then Fayetteville. I met every manager face-to-face, took notes, asked questions, listened. They weren't just shops, they were systems, machines that needed real leadership. Ray didn't give me a gift. He handed me a job, a future. The money came with it, sure, but so did payrolls and contracts and taxes and long nights, and I carried all of it, proudly. Every time I walked into one of those garages, I saw pieces of Ray, his work ethic, his loyalty, his no-bullshit approach to life. He didn't leave me a trust fund. He left me a standard. I kept it. Sometimes I still think about that moment in the dealership office. Ashley giggling about selling the bikes. Mom making jokes about me inheriting junk mail. They acted like I was nothing. Like all I'd ever be was the kid with the empty hands. They thought that folder I got, just business paperwork, was a punchline. They didn't know it was the beginning. That was the day everything shifted. Not because I fought for it. Not because I yelled or begged or tried to prove anything. I just waited. Ray always said, "Don't chase credit. Let the work speak." And when the dust settled, it did. They mocked what they didn't understand. They saw value in cash and property, not in knowledge or responsibility. They wanted shortcuts. I wanted a shot. And when he gave it to me, I didn't waste it. Now I manage a network of businesses stretching across 3 states. I've got people reporting to me who used to think I was just the quiet niece who cleaned up invoices. Not anymore. I built new systems, restructured old contracts, doubled the Fayetteville shop's revenue in 1 year. We're expanding into Oklahoma next. And every time I walk into one of those buildings and see it humming like a well-oiled machine, I think of Ray's binder sliding across the workbench that first night. He didn't hand me money. He handed me a blueprint. As for Mom and Ashley, they're still in Springfield. Ashley barely speaks to me now. Mom's pride won't let her say much of anything, not since the bankruptcy. Not since the bank repossessed her car in broad daylight outside her hair salon. I didn't lift a finger to stop it. People always talk about revenge like it's this big dramatic thing. A takedown, a confrontation, a plan. But for me, the best revenge wasn't doing anything. It was watching them live in the aftermath of every selfish choice they made, and walking away knowing I never had to become like them.